You're muted, but hi, Bob.
Unmute. There we go.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Hear you now.
All right.
Hello, gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
I know, a generous term.
Indeed.
How is everybody?
Well, we're hanging in there. How about you?
Pretty good. I got back at 1 a.m. this morning from a 10-day conference, so I'm a
Oh,
little brain dead, but
well,
I'm-
we're going to keep, I think we're going to keep this mercifully short. I mean, there's a few things we'll go over, but nothing earth shattering right now.
I know Anne is planning on being here, and I know Rhiannon was as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Tom got the link or the email. I don't know. We'll need to check into the group thing when we have a chance.
Okay.
yeah, by the way, I don't know why what I developed as my own group email, just for my own ease of use, suddenly became the official group email for this august gathering.
Mhm.
Which is fine. I have no problem with it, but apparently it's not working for everybody. And I don't know if it's a small enough group, you might want to just create your own group email list.
Well, yeah, there were several. I was using the one that Ann put together, Peninsula Broadband Group.
Yeah.
People have come and gone, and people
Yeah.
are being added, and it's like, okay. So yeah, I think one of the things is it will get somebody to like be the official email address person.
Well, you know, Rihanna is here as our intern for the summer.
Oh, yeah.
We should leverage her time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sunday I went out with an email message to her to give Ann a call in terms of like maybe beginning to tabulate the returns that are coming in. And she did that yesterday. So once everybody joins, we can continue. Be right back. Check on. Yep. We got Mark on the line. Hi, Mark. I think you're muted. Can't hear you.
Unmute. There we go.
There you
I'm,
are.
yeah, I'm on an iPad, and so I see a little tiny Brady Bunch. And then I saw right when you looked at it, saw the little red icon that it was muted. Thank you.
Yep. So let's see. It was Mike, you, me, Roy. Let's see. There you are. There. Big picture. Rhiannon. Hi, honey. You're muted. Oh, there you go.
Hi, there's just like white noise in my house sometimes, so I'll stay mute. I'm not talking.
I understand.
Oh, let's see. I guess waiting just for a couple more folks. Give it a couple more minutes, I guess.
Okay. Oh, and Bob, another point as far as the flag ceremonies on Thursday, Letitia Baldwin, who's been doing the travels back and forth with the Schoodic hit and run homicide, the DUI bridge driver, and right by Mike, matter of fact, and also the Gull Cottage fire. She's been here back and forth. So she said she'll be there for the evening colors.
I missed all that excitement. I mean, my wife was texting me about all this stuff going on around here, and I was in Chattanooga, just oblivious.
Oh, the sirens and everything else was going off at like 5:30. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And then all of a sudden I went on to Facebook to look. They said, what's going on with the sirens? And all of a sudden that's when they had pictures of the fire. Yeah. And it's sad. And like one of the fire chiefs said, it's just gutted. It's it's gonna be total. There's just too much water damage, and so.
Okay. What?
Yeah. And it was the reservations were only up until August 31st of this year, and then they were not going to take any more reservations, and it was up to the Space Force to what they were going to do with the place.
Well, it's going to free up the Space Force. Is going to have more space they could use
for another antenna.
Another antenna, yes, exactly. Exactly. That's a shame. That's a shame. It's funny. Yesterday, I hear the sirens. It's like, what is Wind Harbor Police? Who's the person?
Eight towns were toned. Woo.
Yeah. Now I just saw the coming back from Ellsworth, saw 3 trucks come back, and it's like, uh-oh. Then I saw the postings. I was like, that's what happened. What a shame. What a damn shame.
Yeah.
Any cause of the fire? Have they determined, or
not yet? They're still gonna sift through the ruggage. They found some stuff they salvaged, but when I saw the reports in Ellsworth American, it was basically it's gutted. It's not too much damage.
Maybe too much damage to figure out the cause.
Oh, who's gonna do it too? That's the thing. You're talking hundreds, if not $1 million, for a restoration, as they would say, to get it back to the same condition.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I did just call Ann, so give a nudge over at the town office in case she got sidetracked, which who knows how that would happen.
Oh, and so she's got multiple hats and she's running all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that she is. Well, we can start it off. I mean, I really have nothing to report other than the surveys are coming back. Matter of fact, I received 2 of them, one for Lynn, one for me, from Winnehaha, and we'll fill them out and send them in. So now comes the tabulating part of it. I know, Rhiannon, you were helping Ann on that?
Yes. I've been helping Ann with the mass mailing of the surveys for Gouldsboro. I've arranged for there to be drop boxes to return them in all of the post office lobbies in the various villages that make up Gouldsboro, as well as at Korea Lunch on the Wharf and in the Pickled Wrinkle.
Okay.
And I'm going over to the town office on Thursday to actually put together envelopes for the mailing itself, because Anne just has too much going on and she hasn't been able to.
Sure, understood. I mean, as far as what's going on in the state, Krista Thorpe has asked that things are slowed down or actually come to a halt right now. If you saw the articles in the Bangor Daily News and the Ellsworth American, there's pushback from the vendors. So she's requested that there's going to be like maybe a 3-week or so hiatus. This she came out with. I do want to touch base with her. I couldn't do it this morning. I was at Ellsworth Memorial Hospital. They were checking out my ticker. So
Ooh,
I'm still ticking. So that's
okay.
good. Yep.
What is her thinking? Why pause for what we really knew they were going to do, and that is try to fight back for these
Well,
initiatives?
that's just it. There's a fight back, then becomes the disbursement of funds. You know, I think you're seeing more of a political pushback than anything else.
Yeah, we knew that
Uh,
would happen. It's happened in other towns, and it
Yeah.
brought things to a halt in other
Yeah,
places.
so precisely, and I think that's the point. Plus the fact with respect to, we weren't going to do anything. If you looked at the original outline that I provided, was that we get the surveys back because everything's going to be determined on need. And from there, then we would issue the RFP to the various players on that.
Well, Bob, as long as you bring that up, I guess my perspective on it, I joined the committee after it had already started to form, so I might have missed some of this, but
Okay,
I really think that we can predict 2 or 3 likely directions the survey is going to provide for us. And I fully understand that we need the data as we
Mhm.
apply for grants and various other things. But we kind of know, in general terms, what that survey is likely to say to us. In the meantime, I don't think that we have to do these things sequentially. We can anticipate that people that do not currently have internet in their homes
Mhm.
probably either don't know what it can do for them, or they couldn't afford to get it, or it's not available. But there's a population for whom the need of internet is not clear. And at the other extreme, there are people that are currently connected to Spectrum or consolidated with moderate speeds and are happy, but would like to see something that's more reliable and more affordable. And then there's a bunch in between, including the businesses. You know, you can come up with those categories in advance and validate or modify your assumptions with the survey. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't be spending time and leveraging Rhiannon's time. Well, we've got that. You're here with us until what, September, Rhiannon?
Yeah, the end of August.
End of August. We should be really making you work hard and getting the maximum impact for your time by helping us develop a flow chart that tells us how we're going to make decisions and what the possible paths are that we would take. I'm disappointed. I don't think there's agreement on this committee as to what our mission really is. For me, it ought to be something like affordable, reliable, high quality broadband access should be accessible to every address in Hancock.
Well, that is the ultimate goal.
And we shouldn't settle for anything less than that, knowing that there might be somebody out in the woods that's 8 miles from a pole. But we really ought to be in agreement that that's what we're moving toward, and coming up with possible scenarios as we do our due diligence, that we can choose a path depending on what the survey and responses from the for-profit providers tell us. But we shouldn't be waiting. We should be preparing ourselves for that so that we can quickly take advantage of available funding, which is likely to dry up in another year or so.
Well, Mike, I think with respect to your comments, they're well taken. However, every town is different. All right, Goldsboro, if anything, needs probably the most work, honestly, because they have nothing. There's no infrastructure. All right. All you have is consolidated with DSL, and that is not acceptable.
But that's not true, Bob. I'm sitting here on Spectrum with 200 megabytes down and 25 up.
Same here.
So you know, there are pockets, and that doesn't mean that what I have meets the federal standard for broadband access. It clearly doesn't, because I haven't got the upload. And I would submit that Winter Harbor's in the same boat. The people that have got a good connection right now, good in the sense that it's a lot better than it was 10 years ago, it doesn't meet the new federal standard or what we're going to expect as normal in 10 or 15 years. And we should be trying to achieve what would be normal in 10 or 15 years.
Well, what's going to be normal, everything, the speeds. Look, there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry. All right. Everybody's waiting for DOCSIS 4.0 to be released. And it's very close to being released. Matter of fact, it's available, has not been deployed. Okay, Mark, you're shaking your head.
No, I'm actually reading at the same time. I'm reading about the cable while you're talking.
Okay, so I mean, look, we want to do fiber, fine. All right, that's part of the specification, fiber to the house. However, I mean, there's movement afoot going back to copper for deployment. It's already existing. All right, the speeds they can achieve are very surprising. All right, you have hybrid coax, fiber coax, okay, which will give you symmetrical speeds up and down. All right, so it becomes technology availability. Also comes down to cost. Yeah, grants are nice and everything, but we have to decide. That's hence the RFI or RFP. If you want to do an RFI, more to it. All right, we can arrange that. Invite the carriers in for question and answer period. Like, what can you do for us? I'm all in favor on that. But quite frankly, if there's no revenue involved in it, if there's no need on it, if there's apathy towards it, what are you going to do? Everything is driven by revenue. That's the way it is.
Well,
All
everything is driven by revenue if we go on the profit of working with a for-profit provider.
Well, you don't want to.
And we may end up doing that. Although,
Right.
and I've been transparent about my bias that I don't trust the existing providers who have outside obligations to their shareholders compared to a public utility that we might be able to.
Mike, I'm sorry, that's a naive approach. I've been in this industry 46 years. All right. Public, private, whatever. All right. Everything is driven by money. I'm not naive enough to say, hey, let's just do it. It's the best thing we can do for the people. I agree. I'd love to see it for free. And maybe someday it'll be for free.
I'm not saying for free. I think the DBU model up the coast seems to be working. And any revenue, any profit that's generated is plowed back into their system, as opposed to somebody who lives in Texas or some shareholder from somewhere else.
Well,
I'm not saying that's the best thing for us. I'm just saying we shouldn't be assuming that we have to work with the for-profit providers.
I'm not saying we do either. Actually, you know, there are options on the table. All right, that we can do. However, we have to establish the need. What are people looking for? All right, and every town is different. Washington County is different from Hancock County. All right, in the sense of population densities. I mean, there's towns that, you know, what do you got? 150 people. I get that. All right, but it does cost money to deploy. It also costs money to maintain a network. I think Roy can tell you that. Roy, you're getting more gray here. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I am going a little bit gray. I think the point that Mike is making is a point that I agree with, is that on two things. Yes, we're in a holding pattern. The funding's not being dispersed. That's being challenged. But right now, it's not costing us anything realistically to proceed with work that can be done, that can be done in parallel, and we can investigate while we'll do the RFI and see what and I thought we were going to do an RFI. I remember that being discussed the last meeting I attended.
yeah, I agree to that.
And
You know, what can you do for us? You know, that type of thing.
so I think maybe coming out of this, that's a document we should start working on so that we can engage the internet providers to see what their level of interest is. But also, you know, you cannot get, for example, the DBU, when Dan Sullivan spoke with us before, they're not in this area, and there's no magical way for them to get here until the space between us has been joined up and so forth. But we can look at their model what they actually did, their process, how they got to where they are, what their costs for maintenance, what their costs for deployment, that sort. We can ask those questions and get those pieces, because doing an RFI is not going to get an answer about those, because that's for a system that doesn't
Well,
exist here. So
Right, well, that's their private network, and understood. You know,
So-
the,
I think we can work on that. That's a piece that I think we can work on, even if we're in a holding pattern with funding from the state, and if that's being challenged. So that, I mean, it's almost a good thing for us if we use the time productively. If there is no funding being dispersed, the
mhm,
funds are not dwindling right now. So here's a time when the process is on hold that we can keep digging up information and informing ourselves on what are our options while there's no progress on the funding side of things. So I think what would be useful for me, because absolutely, Bob, I understand your concerns with the sort of do-it-yourself model. It's obviously more complicated than just working with an existing provider. I'm thinking what would be useful is for us as a committee to figure out what our questions are for Dan about the DBU model. So again, maybe from your perspective, Bob, like, what is your maintenance plan? What is your maintenance cost since operation? These types of questions, we can get
Yeah.
these, and he can provide us those answers.
mhm. Oh, I have no problem going do-it-yourself, going with some type of provider, all right? But there's a lot of things, and going through my mind, all right? Number one, you want fiber to the premise? Fine. Okay, so there's money needed for that. Fiber is relatively cheap. Okay, it's easy to put up glass. Then you need some type of interface to the premise. All right. From there, you're on a pole, and where's that going to go to? So you need somebody to interconnect to, say, probably Otelco in Bangor. That's where the players usually use. They go up to Bangor, and they use a company called Otelco. All right. Then you have to look at peering agreements with that. Where does the equipment get stored? In terms of light wave equipment, where does that get provisioned? Those are, yeah, it would be nice. Matter of fact, my last conversation with Mike, wanted to go out there and have lunch somewhere,
Mhm.
and you're invited to come to ask all these questions. And I think if you want to do that, I can easily set that up. I mean, I can go out myself, but since you're co-chair and you have other interests to look at, to represent, hey, the more the merrier. We could really nail them.
Well, I don't know about going out there physically, but I certainly think we can ask the questions, compile
Mhm.
them, and get the responses so we know the details of their model, how it has worked out. And I think that can be done very easily. If we all have questions, let's just put them in a document. Maybe we'll start one of the things I was thinking is that we should have, probably, whether it's Gmail or Outlook or whatever, we should probably just create our own independent email for this committee. I'm thinking Gmail, and have a Google document we can share, even though I'm not a fan of sharing logins, but we can share amongst the committee members the access so that we can work collaboratively on these documents. And then we're not tied to one town or the other. And we can put together our questions, and then we can have Dan hopefully answer all of those, or anybody over there answer those questions, so we know. It doesn't require an in-person visit, but
Well, I like seeing face to face, because things come across that, hey, while we're talking, what about this, that, and the other? I have no problem with that, going out to Washington County.
No, and by all means go, but I'm saying that may
Yeah.
not be an option for everybody.
Understood. Sure. I mean, I like things going the flow very nicely. To me, there's also a logic to it as well. I mean, so if we want to do it yourself, Hey, my cable and internet bill are going up like by $45 in July. Am I happy about that? No. All right. So and I think a number of people's bills from Spectrum are going to be going up next month. I mean, my cell phone bill has already gone up like $6 and change a line. So I'm not thrilled with that.
Does that sound like something, the committee membership that we have here, would you be interested in just setting up an account so we can have some collaborative workspace that we can jot our thoughts down and so forth?
You know, I would like that because I really believe we can be doing a lot more in parallel rather than sequentially in terms of our work process. And just to restate what I said earlier, we've only got Rhiannon until the end of the summer, and we should be making her sweat. She ought to be working hard, you know, digging into not just, you know, managing a common Google Doc, maybe helping us get the research done relative to the DBU model or other models, other towns that are a year or two ahead of us, whether it's Blue Hill or I forget the island that Anne was referencing early on in our process. We could be looking at how they went through this and picking up the steps they took. I guess what I'm just trying to accelerate things a little bit here without getting us going too far down a rabbit hole. I don't personally care what kind of interface would go between fiber and the copper in a house right now. I want to think about how we would structure this thing and then begin the demonstration of need to the population and to the governments in our two towns. I'm just afraid. I'm just well. Anyway, enough.
No, Mike, speak your mind. Speak your mind. Whatever you want to say. We're among friends here, I think. And if not, you know, we're big boys and girls. So speak.
I'm not being critical. I'm trying to. I've got 4 or 5 different volunteer boards that I'm on, and I just came back from running a 1,000-person symposium for 10 days. You have to leverage the resources that you have and move the enterprise forward. Have we ever formally declared what our mission is as a committee? Have we ever come up with what we call the elevator speech? If somebody in the street says, "Why are you doing this? I'm happy with my DSL line," we could say it's because of these things. We could be generating talking points. It could say something like, you know, a broadband access at every address in the county is going to improve the value of our homes, resale value, et cetera, for businesses. You're not going to have your transaction with a customer take 30 seconds. It's now going to take 3. You can go down the list and come up with those talking points, and then we as committee members would have that in our hip pocket. That's the kind of thing that we could be doing, moving this along, while in the background we're trying to figure out the RFI and the RFP and seeing what grant money is available and investigating various models.
Well, I was hoping Sandy Fortin would join because she certainly had enough to say last night. All right. And, you know, she was like, you know, if you want to do education of the people, by all means, please do, regardless of who the provider is, whether we do it ourselves, getting the word out. All right. I'm all in favor of that. I mean, what is our mission? The mission is to provide broadband connectivity to the masses and is at a reasonable cost. All right. Talking with Spectrum, they have there's a government program, but it's based upon your total income. And quite frankly, you know what? Gas at $5 a gallon. I'm not trying to go off target here, but come the winter time, that's more important to think of. How are you going to heat your house? How are you going to heat your house? And I'm going to spend money on internet? I don't think so. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, we just topped off a tank here at $4.69 a gallon, number 2 heating oil. And matter of fact, you can't get a diesel contract from any of the providers like Dead River, who we use. So what are we going to do for the winter time? So, I mean, these are things that need to be really taken into consideration. What is the upfront cost? Some people have come across saying, hey, give me a satellite link. Well, it's going to cost you about $500 for equipment. Once you spend that money and you get your subscription, go for it. But that's not the way either. So, I mean, look, Mike, I'd be willing to do anything. And you know what? Giving Mike Sullivan a buzz. How'd you do it? Excuse me. I think you got the scars to show it, Mike. Let's talk about it. Now, what are the pitfalls on it? I'm in favor of that. I'm not locked into any solution. Like I said, in the case, every town is different. Okay, every town is different. I mean, Winter Harbor 70% wired with Spectrum. Do we want to rip that out and add something else or go something else? That could possibly be done. All right. But then we have to look at the franchise agreements that are, Winter Harbor is a franchise agreement with Spectrum. So we'd have to look at the legality of that. I believe Gouldsboro, Roy, is open, not locked in with anybody.
I don't have any details on that, but
Okay.
but also I would be curious, like you said, there might be some legal questions about the franchise agreement. I'm not sure if those franchise agreements are solely to provide cable service, and it would apply to fiber service. They might not. So
Yep.
those are certainly important questions to ask.
Oh yeah.
So
And I think go ahead. I'm sorry.
you've done RFIs in the past, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I have not. So I guess what would be useful for me, looking at that part of it going forward, is maybe as a if you have an example or know of where, or people know where there's an example that we could look at and then begin to maybe craft that would be something that's good. And then we can do that along with compiling our questions for DBU, and we can just work on that all together. And we'll include along with those the caveats to each approach.
Sure.
So I think that's going to be some of the stuff that we should be taking out of this meeting. So an RFI document, basically an example and a working draft that we can start to cobble together. Does that make sense to people?
Well, I think the putting the questions together, sure. Because there's questions I have, like peering agreements. People are saying, what's a peering agreement? They have no idea. All right. So those are questions to be answered. The legal ramifications of it, the liability ramifications, car crashes into a pole carrying the fiber, who's responsible for it, things like that. So,
yeah. So I guess what I'll do is I'll try and find the best fit for for some hosted documents that we can all access, that we can all put our comments into. Any case, I'll work on that, and we can put all those things in there. We'll have separate documents for each purpose, and start compiling our ideas. Now, the other thing, I think it would be good just to have a mission or vision statement that is decided upon. And maybe Mike, if you want to send me that, then we can make that a document too. And I just think it'd be good to agree on these things as a group. Just say, I want to change this word, I want to adjust it. And then when we get it away that we can all feel comfortable with, then we can agree that that's our stated mission. Does that make sense to people?
I'm happy
A
to.
workspace or something along those lines?
Yeah, workspace.
yeah.
Okay.
And it may be just, a Google account that I share out access or share the documents with people with, just to have a central repository and give everybody
Right.
the same level of access so we can keep track.
Yeah.
So I guess, Bob, did you have any other items you wanted to touch on, or?
No, I think Ann was, excuse me, I think Ann was trying to say something. I don't know if she's online or.
She's online. She has
So-
a couple.
Anne has her computer for whatever reason wouldn't connect to audio, so she can hear us. She just can't talk.
She made a comment that we're putting the cart before the horse. So,
Yeah,
Anne, is there a way you can?
She said, we are not, but we are also nearly 4 times as big as Winter Harbor. We
Right.
have the cart before the horse here. Yes, whatever she was referring to.
Yes was in response to my question about the shared documents and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah,
But-
having a shareable file, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. And collaborating is terribly important. So,
I'll
All
take
right.
a first, if it's all right, I'll take a first pass at the mission statement and I'll send it to you, Roy, so you can put it out for everybody.
Okay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I really would like to see 2 other documents, as I said at the outset. One of them would be a decision tree. If this, then that. Just as a mental exercise for us to think about what kind of paths we would go through in this process, whether it's political or legal or grant writing or whatever. If we find out this, what do we do with it?
Right.
Just to keep us from having to go so sequentially through the work process. I think a document like that could accelerate the flow of our work.
you want to see a decision tree, could be political. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are all these pieces of it. I don't think we need to spend a lot of thought thinking about the actual technology right now. I think we need to we need to be a little farther upstream than that as we try to process this.
Right. Okay. Well, and put on that, we're not obligated to any ISP in Goldsboro. Okay, and that's true. We're not. Current incumbent or otherwise. Yeah. I'm totally agnostic when it comes to this. You giggle, but
I know,
it's
I know.
I mean, look, the carriers wouldn't be where they are if they didn't know what they were doing. Money aside, shareholders aside, they know they pretty much know what they're doing. I mean, but we have to do our due diligence. That's what I stress about. Regardless, I have no problems performing our due diligence. So I mean, if it makes sense to be independent and do our own network, then let's do it. I don't like giving the money to Spectrum. Okay, so I mean, I can probably pull snippets of an RFI questions and put them together and deposit it on the SharePoint side.
All right.
Then we can have probably Rhiannon put everything together.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
we'll
Just a
start
couple-
gathering. Go ahead, Rhiannon.
Sorry, just a couple of things. And I'm sorry if it seems like I've missed something. Ironically, my internet is acting up and I definitely have missed a couple of bits and pieces today. But I would definitely love to help put together like a shared Google Drive folder with those several documents that we've talked about. And I think that probably would be like the easiest way to put that together. And also, I think that it's Mike that first mentioned putting together that decision tree or flow chart. And I would love to work with him or whoever else is working on that to put that together and sort of make an infographic of that as well. Because I have been feeling just a little confused about what's going on and what our next steps are. So something like that would be really helpful for me. And I think everyone probably.
Right. My biggest concern is that what are these carriers doing to throw the monkey wrench into everything? If they're the ones who are thwarting funding, then you got a big issue. I mean, it may come to a grinding halt. And that's my concern on that. So to me, the biggest thing is the political / financial nonsense that's going on. So,
Well, that's absolutely a concern. But I mean, we're all doing this because it's something that we believe in. It's not that we're getting paid for this. And I'm
Right.
going to continue to believe in this even if the funding mechanism does follow, because it's not going to be the last push for broadband, that's for sure. If it's not successful, it's not the last. And
Right.
the more work we can get done, the better off position we'll be whenever things do move forward and there is funds available.
Mhm.
I did, just to get a couple little questions out there. I do have the survey that I'm just about ready to send to Anne
Mhm.
to be printed, and that Rhiannon is going to work with her on getting that sent out. I guess what I'll do is I'll share the document first. I just want to make sure it looks good to everybody. I did make the font a little bit bigger because Anne had said, just make sure that it's nice and big so everybody who has poor eyesight in these communities can read it. So there's that. And I need to add in the locations where people can return the surveys. Also, if we have that collaborative Google account that's going to have an email address associated with it, I was going to add that we can, you can return a photo. If somebody doesn't want to physically take it in and they don't want to fill it out online, just give them as many options as possible. They can take a picture of it and send it to an email. So I think that's one thing I'd like to do as well. So, but let me share screen. So this is the revised one. Basically, I took the margins out because we won't have any trouble printing it. And it gives me a little bit more real estate. Just added this introductory paragraph here with the QR code to the right.
Mhm. Nice.
The address of the form online. Somebody wants to fill it out there.
Mhm.
Again,
Okay.
name, physical address. Obviously, it's got some formatting the way it's displaying right here.
Yep.
These questions are substantially identical. I just added some boldface to do the emphasis. Again, it's all pretty much the same as we had before. Yeah, I'll fix the pagination here once we get done.
Sure. Yeah.
What do you use your internet service for? We discussed that previously. How many devices? Approximate cost of just the internet,
Mhm.
the adequacy and the obstacles to service at all or more adequate service. And then the broad question about if we could do it ourselves, would that be something that they would support, assuming we could do better service, better or equal service for better or less money that would not have a taxation impact on the town.
Roy, in that number, is it number 10, this last paragraph, would it be worth bolding and would not raise taxes to implement?
Right. That's
Because
fine.
that's often a perception that we're talking about raising taxes to make this happen.
Right. And I think, again, that's going to be a question that we're going to raise with DBU is, okay, yes, your town's backed the loans, but then you had this revenue stream coming in. Was there an impact on taxes at all, or did it?
Right.
Yeah, that's certainly, but yeah, I think, I can add bold there if people think that would be useful. And then just, thank you at the bottom. So it's formatted poorly on this Word, but
Right.
that's if those are good with people, I will send this, I will add the locations in and I will send it on to Anne
Mhm.
for production.
If you can send it out, I'll print it out, we'll take a look at it, give you some comments on it, but I'm pleased from what I see.
Okay. All right. So I will stop sharing.
Yeah.
Since that's,
Yeah.
and then just to be clear, So Rhiannon, you said it was all the PO box, post office lobbies. So that is Korea, Birch Harbor, Prospect Harbor, and Goldsboro.
Yes, all four. I got approval to do that from the manager of all of those, which is through Ellsworth somehow. I did this a couple weeks ago, so don't totally remember, but it is approved.
Is, just out of curiosity, is Winter Harbor post office also?
I didn't ask about Winter Harbor, but it would be probably a 5-minute phone call to also get it approved.
It might just be worth checking in case, because for example, if you're living on South Goldsboro Road, the bottom end of that, you might be, depending on the direction you're going to go right by the Winter Harbor post office. And since we are working as the two towns together, it'd be nice to have that post office on board. And you said the Korea lunch on the wharf and the pickled wrinkle. Okay. And of course, town offices.
Yes, the town
town.
offices as well.
Okay. So I will add those locations to the document. I will send it over to Ann. I'll send it to everybody so you can see the finished product. I will probably send it out as a PDF just so it doesn't shift around depending on what you're looking at it with. And we'll go from there. Just something that I wanted to bring up organizationally. Mixed market. But mixed market, yeah, they do have longer hours. And just pointed out that mixed market would be another good option. So yeah, I mean, that may be a place you want to call to, Rhiannon, if you get the opportunity. Minutes and agendas. I just think this is something we should get a little bit more formal on, as well as identifying the schedule. I know, obviously, you know, we had some interruption in the meetings last month. I think it would be good just to get in the habit of having that regular meeting time or meeting schedule that we had discussed, and plan to have an agenda distributed to the group in advance of the meeting, like most municipal committees do, and also to get in the habit of approving minutes from the previous meeting at the outset. Obviously, we've had some variability in the start, so you know that's to be expected, but I just wanted to put that out there, that we should really strive for that if possible. And then we can hopefully things settle out and they become second nature.
I'm strongly in favor of that. I think it helps validate the time and effort we're putting in as volunteers, that the time is valuable enough to have an agenda and have minutes and a record of the decisions we make.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So again, maybe that's something we can work on with Rhiannon, just developing the format for the agenda, the minutes, and I would say anybody who wants an item on the agenda, we just bring it to, I would say ideally, just send it to Bob and myself, and then we can just see to it that it gets added to the agenda.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Good to me.
Yep. Speaking, Rhiannon, do you want to go ahead and, we were talking about email lists. Mike, do we want to have Rhiannon maybe put together an email list of participants?
Yeah, before everybody got on, it appears at one point I built an email list for people that I knew were on the committee, and I used that when I forwarded stuff from the main Broadband Commission. And people began to use that as the mailing list for the Peninsula Committee, which is fine with me.
Right.
But some folks have had trouble accessing it. Sometimes it works great, and sometimes Outlook won't let them use this email list. It might be helpful, and I don't have the technical background to understand why it wasn't working, but if we had Rhiannon or somebody else when she disappears on us, maintaining the list on behalf of the committee.
I think that would be a central point of contact to maintain the list. Keeping order for it. I'd like to see that happen too.
If you're on and offline, if you like, I can make sure you've got the list that I use. And
Right.
I'm also happy to talk with you about this concept of a flow chart. And,
Sure.
and then we could send it on to the rest of the committee once you've come
Right.
up with something.
And then Ann also has an email list as well. So,
Yeah, and actually, if you can just resend to us the list of everybody that was interested and has participated that you're aware of, just whatever list that you had, that would be good, because I think we've certainly lost some people along the way.
mhm,
I don't know that they were intentionally lost, either by us or by themselves, but I think it's, you know, we should at least offer anybody who's not been a regular recent participant to at least stay informed. Even if they're not participating, they could at least get the emails.
You know, I think that's important because I suspect, without talking to everybody, that we have lost some people because they felt there was nothing happening. And if we had agendas and were taking minutes and they were copied on everything, they might have a sense that this is a worthwhile use for their time.
mhm.
So I just,
I created that.
Yes.
Sorry, my bad.
no, go for it.
Everyone was frozen and I thought that I was good to go. I'd be happy to create that email list if I had control of it. I could create Google Calendar alerts that everyone would be able to get for those meetings. I do have minutes from today that I'll send out to everyone, but I didn't have an agenda for today.
That's okay. And you need to tell your father, yes, you do need better internet, because I beg to differ, Jeff. That is not sufficient internet. But yeah, so the existing group, you created that through Outlook, correct, Mike?
Yeah, it was many group email lists that I have in my Outlook folders.
I think if we're especially thinking of Google Drive and that side of things, that maybe we should look at what capabilities we could get out of that account as well.
Yeah.
I've never used an individual Gmail account that way, so I'm not sure what it'll actually do. I know organizationally what we can do, but I also don't think we need to be paying for Google Workspace for the purposes of this work either.
Is Dropbox free for small groups, small?
Dropbox has a free plan. The good part about Google Drive, of course, is just the Google Docs and the collaborative nature of it, being able to share out access. So Dropbox, sort of independent. I would look at Dropbox as a solution just for distributing files, but for collaboration, I think we would want something in the Google Drive and Google Docs area. And of course, even a basic Gmail account comes with a certain amount of storage for free. So okay. What sort of schedule do we want to have for the meetings? I'm guessing obviously there may not be a lot we have to discuss, but I think it would be good to at least schedule the meetings to happen. And then if we don't need to have them, we can always cancel. But then we get in the habit of expecting to have a meeting on a certain day at a certain time, and we're in that mode and we can plan better that way. Certainly, it's traditionally been Tuesdays, and I think that's worked for most people. Since it's mostly Zoom, it's pretty convenient, I think, for most people. It's not that much of an interruption, so
No. Do we want to have it once a month, bi-monthly, or?
I think
Bi-weekly?
at least once a month.
Okay,
I would agree.
all right.
okay.
Do you want to say, I mean, right now we're on was it the fourth Tuesday? Are we the fourth Tuesday or the last
Yeah.
Tuesday of the month?
Mm, Monday is this, yeah, Tuesday's July 4th. So, yes, we're on the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Oh, no, we are on the fourth Tuesday of the month. So, I mean, we could plan on that be our meeting date if that works for people.
Uh-huh.
Fourth
Okay.
Tuesday at 1:30.
Yep,
Yep.
time sounds good. So why don't we make it a recurring meeting then?
Yep. And the Zoom meeting is set up as a recurring meeting. So it'll be the same meeting link every time.
Okay,
The genius plan I had is I just started scheduling a new meeting for the time that we needed, because recurring meetings don't appear on the calendar. So I put a placeholder and just use the recurring meeting.
okay.
So that way we don't get overrun. And
Mm,
so that would set our next meeting to be the 26th of July at 1:30. And then agenda items, like I said, we'll just, anybody that has things they want to discuss, send them to Bob and me. And we will get them put on the agenda. And in the interim, we're gonna try and cobble together example RFI. We're gonna, did you want to do something on pairing agreements, Bob? Because I know you mentioned that a couple times.
I mean, well, yeah, I mean, as far as whoever we're gonna interconnect with, whatever, whether it's a private or we go with the commercial carrier, need to know want to know pairing agreements. Is it a big deal?
But it's a piece of it. And
Yeah,
if there's an example, again, if any examples that we can find that we can throw into that drive so that we can
Mhm.
see what we're looking at, I think that would be useful.
sure. I mean, if we're gonna do fiber, there should be some type of SLA associated with fiber. Meantime, mean uptime, mean time to repair, things like that. So,
Right. And then we'll start a document that
Yep.
people can contribute to, that will have questions for Mr. Sullivan over at DBU. We'll just throw our ideas in there, any concerns that you have, any gaps in our knowledge that we can then submit to him.
sure.
And people who want to go to Washington County and have a look, they can arrange that meeting, and any feedback from that, certainly I'd put into that document as well, because that will be valuable to the rest of us.
Do we want some type of naming convention and with respect to questions that would be deposited, like, I don't know, Roy got question 1A or question 2, question 3, so on and so forth.
I don't know that it's necessary to number them, but
Okay,
I would say whatever works for you, make that. And then, I mean, I would hope that Dan would just sort of go down through the list, and when we give it to him, and sort of respond to the question directly.
Mhm.
Not to put too much on him, but just, obviously if he didn't want to do it, he wouldn't offer. So,
sure. All right. Very good.
and then Rhiannon and Mike, you're going to work on the decision tree. And did you want to try and flesh out the timeline more specifically? Was that something you'd mentioned, Mike?
Yeah, that would be the second document I'd like to see, the rough timeline, always subject to change based on what happens in the external environment. But, just a sense of what we're biting off here, whether it's a a 5-month or a 5-year plan, what the steps and the approximate timing would be, and we could use examples from other geographies that have been successful with this, like DBU.
So
Rihanna, if it's okay with you, could you give me a call after this meeting for just 5 minutes and we can talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. How would you like me to do that? I
Oh,
don't
just-
think I have contact info for you.
Let's just use the old technology of a phone call, which is 963-7182.
963-7182. 7182. Okay.
all right, and I'll make the point because I know Anne's a little bit impaired with her technology right now. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Anne?
Just to be clear, we were saying that it's her technology that's impaired, not her.
Yes, it is the technology. I have heard plenty about how technology impaired the Gouldsboro town office is. So, all right, I will definitely, I will adjust the survey. I'll send it as a Word document and I'll send it as a PDF to Anne so that can get right off to the photocopier to be run off and ready for Thursday. And Rhiannon, I guess I'll work with you too, just to see what we're going to do with the account, the collaborative drive and so forth. And then we'll make sure everybody has the access that they need.
Sounds very good.
Okay,
All right. Well, I guess, Roy, thank you. Till next time. Same bat channel, same bat station, blah, blah, blah.
hey, thank you, everyone.
Fair
All
enough.
right. Thanks.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.